Here we go. Hello and welcome. I'm Tracey-Jane Hughes from the Business Cheerleading Club, and I'm with Annabel Kaye today, who has come to join us to talk the wonderful, all things wonderful about GDPR. So, Anna, let me just start by saying that GDPR in the communities that I'm in the business communities I'm in, is causing the most conflict, the most conversation, the most you must do this, oh no, you mustn't do that, conversations that I have ever seen in my 15 years of being in business. So that's why it's wonderful to have you here, Annabel. So just, Annabel, just tell us a little bit about who you are, because some people won't have met you before.
It is possible. Well, my name's Annabel Kaye, and since I started the business I run today in 1980, so all of that time I've been reading EU directives for a living, because I do employment law in the dark side of HR, by which I mean I have never given anybody a pay rise or promoted them. It's not my function in the world. I do all the things no one else wants to do, but often need doing. And about 10 years ago now, I realized that a lot of micro businesses that once had a part-time receptionist or someone in the business were actually turning to outsourcing to VAs, outsourcing to web designers, to bookkeepers. And the profile of how we run businesses had changed. Now we call it the gig economy, but when I started the Coffee Clutch brand to service this market, it didn't have a name. So I thought it's all about having a cup of coffee, working in the coffee shop, you know, let's have a coffee related name. Since then, I've been looking after in that Coffee Clutch brand micropreneurs. Some of them are pretty mighty, by the way, because, you know, you can have 80 people on your outsource team. I think of them as the mighty mouse of the modern economy, you know. And as a result of that, about 18 months ago, people started talking to me about GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. And I was particularly interested in it in this micro space where predominantly people are outsourcing. Then they haven't got 400 staff when they can go away and sort out GDPR. And originally, I just researched it, obviously, for my own business. And because my customers were saying, the contracts you provide GDPR compliant? What do I need to do? What do I need to get people to do? And in order to answer that question, to figure out what. So we started our research about 2 years ago, I guess. We knew it was coming because we're boring and we read this sort of stuff, you know. And originally, we just saw it as something we would build into our core offering. It wasn't a separate product anymore. And if you do medicine, maybe sticking plasters is a thing. It is just part of your thing. Yeah, and then I got really angry because I started to see really confused and upset people going, I've just been told basically the way I run my business, I can't do anymore. Or I'm not allowed to do this, or unless I do this, then it's going to cost me £1,000, or fill in the numbers. You know, I can't be in business anymore. And these were people within my own customer communities that I knew. I knew they weren't stupid people. You know, I knew that they hadn't got the wrong end of the stick because they weren't paying attention. There was a lot of fear marketing going on, and I'm still seeing it out there. So we stepped up to the plate for our own communities. We started with virtual assistants last June. We've got some great graduates now, know what they're doing. It's fabulous. And we said, well, we'll help you. We've got to do GDPR for our own business. We've got to do it for our own contractual offering. Why not sort of turn the lemons into lemonade? So we started, and the group's now got about 160 VAs, and it's grown a bit. We worked through a process of, well, what is it? How does it affect the way you trade your business, and all the other things that people worry about? And out of that, it kind of grew. It got a bit out of hand. So we had trainers come to us and go, why can't we join the VAs group? And it was like, but your business process doesn't match. So we started a trainers group. And so it's gone on. But our focus is very much on group support for people in very similar businesses, because there you get down to the nitty gritty of some sense. I mean, you wouldn't walk into a room for the trainers, would you, and say, you're not allowed to collect delegate data? Right, because you'd be a bit nervous, but people get a bit peculiar about GDPR, you know. And one of the things I think is a problem about GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, is the old thing. I mean, 38 years in business, this has never failed me. To the man with a hammer, every problem is a nail. So if you're Yeah, if you do cybersecurity, GDPR is all about cybersecurity. You've got to encrypt it. You've got to have anti-phishing devices. You know, if you do contracts as we do, it's all about contracts. But it isn't all about either of those things. Yeah. And so everybody's got a thing about GDPR. And then on top of that, a lot of people like to say it's this or that. And I get this in my groups. You know, I get people going, should I put this word in my email sign-up list or that one? And they want the answer, this word or that word. Yeah. So when I say to them, well, hang on a minute, why do you need this information? What's your purpose? And what are you going to send them when they sign up? Because that affects the wording. They go, stop mucking about, just tell me A or B. So a lot of people don't like uncertainty. So when someone gives them quite a nuanced answer and goes, well, it's all about intention, it's about purpose, it's about clarity, go, stop mucking about. And then out of that comes people going, well, my advisor said I've got to put this word in, and your advisors said you've got to put that word in. Well, you might have different purposes. Of course, you're getting different answers. But we, like as busy entrepreneurs, the last thing you want to do is get up this morning and spend 6 hours thinking, what am I here for? Why am I collecting data? Right, we're not running a philosophy class, are we? We're running a business. and we don't really have the mental or emotional space to address this. So we're always looking for quick fixes. Yeah, really. And I was talking to an amazing woman. I don't know if you know her, Amanda Watts, the other day, because she's quite local to your groups, isn't she? And she helps accountants market, and she's just brilliant. And I said to her, look at it this way. If I came to you as a marketing specialist and I went, I don't want to think about marketing. I actually don't care who my target market is, right? Don't want to know what they want. I just want you to write me a marketing plan that I can execute without giving it any thought. What use would that be? He said, I think you're a lunatic. I went, right. This is the problem with GDPR, that everybody's grasping on, well, I can understand that bit. You know the story of the 6 blind men and the elephant, don't you? You know, one of them's grabbing the tail, going the elephant's rope, and one of them's holding the size goes, well, and GDPR is a bit of an elephant. You know, and some of us are holding the ear, going, I think we need to talk about it. Some people are, well, they don't want to know what part of the elephant some people are holding, really. And everyone's going, that's what GDPR is. Yeah. But at its core, it's something quite radical and something quite simple, as radical things often are. Right. And what is radical, though to me self-evident, is that I own my own information. Okay. If I share it with you as a customer or potential customer, I'm having a little bit of a pretty woman moment here. I get to say where, I get to say when. You know, I don't just get hijacked. Now, that is quite a simple proposition, that the data about me, the data that identifies me, and I much prefer the word information, because I've got loads of people going, I don't collect data, we don't have a database. And it's like, you've got an address book, darling. Yeah. You can't tell me that whenever a customer rings up, you go, I've no idea who you are. You must be collecting something. You've got to be collecting information. So if you get your ideas into the idea that the customer's information belongs to them, they can lend it to you. Yeah. They can share it with you. Think of the words we use, sharing. But that doesn't mean you own it as a business. It means they do. That is the very core of GDPR. It's about respect.
And that makes total sense.
Because it does when you're the customer. The problem is that all the systems we've used since the 80s, and I can remember the thrill of my first e-newsletter, not having to put all that stuff in a thank you machine, brilliant. All of the systems we use primarily derive from America. I know we have Australian things and whatever, but primarily 80% of your software platforms have their origins either in an American company or in something invented in America that somebody else had to go out and repackage somewhere else. All of that data is based on the entitlement that the business can do what it wants. Yeah. And goodness help you if you get into the system, because you can't get out. You know, you can't disappear. The problem is getting the way we operate alongside the way we need to think, because most of us are not commissioning platforms. I don't get to go to Dropbox and go, this is what I think you need to do. Dropbox go, this is what we do. And now my choice is yes or no. And it's pretty much the same with zero accounting, as I can't imagine getting hold of them and saying, it's a bit off-putting, your stuff's in Australia. I wish you to move your head office to Europe. I can't really see that carrying much weight.
As much as you'd like to.
Well, I'd obviously like to rule the universe. There's one or two things I'd like to get done. But, as a micro entrepreneur, you're not in the same situation as these really big businesses who can say, well, let's put our customer database in Berlin or Dublin or London, and that solves the problem. So we're tail end Charlies with it all. And so a lot of the stuff you see out there about you must do this, you must never do this, you must always do this, it's very top level information being interpreted as if you were a really big business. And then we get anxious. And as soon as we get anxious, we get dogmatic, don't we? There is a right way, and it's my way. But here's the fact. The EU directive is 2 years old. Right? There's nothing new happening there except that it's coming into force. But
it's just that date, isn't it? 25th of May. It's just a date.
It's about, 26 pages long. And in the UK, though, we've got a little problem. And that is that the Act of Parliament designed to bring this into force hasn't been finished.
Okay.
It's about 252 pages long when I read it. We love the simplification process in this country. And it's not been finished. So there's lots of people going, it's this and it's that. But
we don't actually know yet.
Well, no, we don't know, but we can make some intelligent guesses. So some people are saying, this is my guess, but they're not couching it as this is my guess. They're couching it as this is what it is. Okay. And two intelligent, well-informed guesses by two different people with two different hammers after two different nails can create a, is it this or that? And obviously there is the little detail that the people who want £1,000 or £5,000 of your money are often quite motivated to get you frightened, really. Yeah. And my rather laid-back approach of, some of it's common sense and some of it's a bit of work and let's do the obvious and worry about the weird later. It's not the sort of thing anyone's going to give you £5,000 for, is it?
Well, I think that's what I've been to a couple of your webinars, Annabel, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, for the community here, because you do have a no nonsense approach to this, and to me a lot of it is common sense. And going through your planner, which is a free download that you've pulled together, a free checklist that you've pulled together on your website. That I think is still there.
I don't know. We'll put a link to it in when this chat is in the group somewhere. Forgive me, I'm getting over flu, so right now I can't even remember where I keep it, but it'll come to me.
No, it's fine. But I've got a blank sheet, so I'm not sharing any of my own data here. So I was doing my due diligence. But these are really simple things that any business should be thinking about anyway, GDPR or not. So I think that sort of taking that fear away from people is just like, this is a business process that you should be considering anyway, and you are responsible for that information about your business, your staff, your VAs, your customers, and how you store it and how you handle that information is something that you should be responsible for. Whether there's new rules in place or not. So I think
complying with existing rules would be about 80% of it. The problem is that a lot of micro businesses have got it into their head, one, that the existing rules didn't apply to them.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So they're not starting from, I'm 80% compliant, what's the 20% difference? Yeah. They're starting from, you're having a laugh. What do you mean this applies to me? Because we have this idea that because we're tiny, we're kind of exempt.
Yeah.
But actually that is very, very rarely the case. And although there are some exemptions within the general data protection regulations for businesses being small, it's not a no, none of it applies. It's just that little bit doesn't apply. And that also has got lost in translation.
Yes.
There is no general exemption. And on the other hand, you've got people going around genuinely thinking that they're going to be fined out of business before we get to the end of the summer. And that too, I think, needs a ghost that needs laying. The Information Commissioner's Office does not have 100,000 inspectors waiting to pounce on the 26th of May. Truly, I'm not sure the government are going to fund that, I think that it's a good thing to be compliant, because I personally don't want to do business with people who are cavalier with my information. We have major problems with identity theft in this country. And I constantly find myself saying to people, before I give you this information, what do you want it for?
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
Yes, definitely.
Even domestic transactions. I'm not a domestic goddess, so about every 6 months I need a cleaner. Surprise me. Should be more often, really. And I don't tend to book from the same company over and over, because being a Londoner, there's lots of choice. And we always end up with them saying the cleaner will come if you give us your credit card details. And I'll go, great, give me a secure link. And they go, no, we want you over the phone to give us your credit card details. And I'm like, you're joking. I can't see who can see that. I don't know where it's going afterwards. I don't do that. 9 out of 10 cleaning firms say to me, well, madam, there's no way we can do this. I go, fine. So I'm quite picky about that, because I don't want my credit card details going onto someone's notepad in a cleaning office with 400 cleaners in and out of it unsecured. I mean, I say things like, well, what's your data protection policy? How secure is it? And they go, policy? We have no policy. This is not good business, is it? Yeah. And the whole job is really being able to answer those very sensible questions. Why do you want my information? Who's got access to it? Right? How securely is it going to be held, and how long for? That's 80% of GDPR. Yeah. Obviously, it's all of it. There's me being able to say, well, you've got my information, what is it, and what? But that's the big piece, because without that, you can't do the rest. And the truth is, as entrepreneurs, we're a bit lazy and greedy. We're not lazy generally, but because we're so busy doing other stuff, we're lazy about this side of things. And what we tend to do is accumulate data about people, prospects, potential prospects, newsletter lists, anything, someone I met at an event, any sort of stuff, and then we just hold on to it forever, thinking it might come in handy. So we're hoarders, really, aren't we? And this idea of hoarding it all goes against the idea that I, as the consumer, the data subject, could reasonably expect that you wouldn't collect unnecessary information about me. And of course, we live in an age where overlaid on that is all this behavioral marketing. Google knows more about where I go than I do. I find this terribly convenient. I'm not one of these people who goes, oh my goodness, I'll turn off my geolocator. I can't tell you the number of times my husband and I have said we were in that town doing that talk, and we went to that pub and it was really good. What was it called? I don't know, but Google knows. And I'll say to Google, where was I on the 13th of January? I think this is wonderful. But the downside of this is Google gives me ads for events in towns I haven't been to for 4 years, because it's still connecting my data with something over there. And rather worryingly, sometimes when I'm having a chat about things on the phone, ads appear for that I swear I haven't searched for. And that's intrusive. So the technology, if you combine that kind of technology with our natural tendency to hang on to all data, you've got a bit of a nightmare scenario. You've got all these businesses talking about big data, aren't they?
Yes.
But what does big data mean? But a lot of nosiness about what you're getting up to.
Yeah.
So we have to find
we have got a couple of viewers, so I'm just asking if they've got any questions. I do have some questions for people that couldn't come live. So
well, we can move on to the questions, I'm sure. But in the end, if you treat your data with respect and stop taking the Michael, you'd be 90% of the way there. I think it's the marketing piece that's causing most people trouble, really, the sales and marketing. If I met you once in a pub, can I email you forever? Seems to be the big problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and what one of the specific questions I've had from someone who she runs a shop. She runs it's a pottery painting shop, and people come in, they paint ceramics, they put their name and details onto a slip of paper that goes alongside their ceramic that they've painted, so that when it gets fired, everybody knows whose it is. And there's a tick box on that form would you like to join our newsletter list for, future events? And Jane then puts them onto MailChimp, and then she bins that piece of paper because she's collected that information. She's done what that customer has expected that information to done, and that's it. So she doesn't have that back record of consent to that email list. And I think, again, that's quite a lot of the issues, that people don't have that record. And there's lots of people sending out new links. If you want to keep on our newsletter, you need to sign up again.
I call it tsunami of consent. I get about 1,000 a day from people I never even knew I was on their email list saying, do you want to stay on? And it's like, well, hell, I've never read your email newsletter anyway. So let's kind of cover that off. The new general data protection regulations have got a lot to say about marketing and consent. Right, they talk about informed consent at the point of sign up.
Yes.
And absolutely getting people to go, yes, I want to be on your email list at the point of filling in the form, tick the box, is compliant with that. Right. The only time it wouldn't be was if your email newsletter list was going to contain a deal of the day or something like that. A newsletter is a newsletter list. If you want to have a let me sell to you till you want a scream list, I think you need to make that plain. I'm not sure anyone has signed up, but assuming that what they get is what they agreed to get, and they've actually consented to it in those express terms, that's great. There's a lot of over response to that. One of the problems is that people have gone, do you want to be on my newsletter list? Tick. And then they've put them on 5 lists with the date of the day, the date of that. That's not consent. So we get in a muddle, but 1 list, 1 consent, 1 purpose, still doing the same purpose, no biggie. The problem we've got with the manual system is the next thing about email marketing is you've got to be, if necessary, able to what they call evidence consent. Isn't that lovely? Have you ever evidenced anything? It's not really in English, which basically means prove, So if I'm on your email list, and then it does happen that people forget that they sign themselves up. And I go, why the hell am I on this list? You should be able to say to me, because. Not, I have no idea. Now, the problem with throwing away the little forms is obvious. Right.
There is no evidence.
There is no evidence. Now, obviously, you can't go back in time 5 years and magic back the consent. So you have a number of choices, and they're choices about risks and they're choices about how you run your business. But at the end of the day, at 2 ends of the spectrum, you can go, I am so paranoid about consent that I'm going to do this consent tsunami and get hold of everybody again. Please, by the way, do not take the opportunity to do a Friday 5% off coupon, because obviously they hadn't consented to that. Do not get in a loop of breaching consent by getting consent, and then we're seeing people do it. So that's one way, in which case a large number of people on your list who are perfectly happy receiving your stuff will probably forget, so you will be list cleaning in a very big way. A slightly more sanguine approach, and it's not really within the absolute letter, semicolon, dotted I's and crosses T's of the whole thing, but slightly more practical for the small business is mailing systems like MailChimp allow you to see who is opening your emails. Right. So if you send out a monthly newsletter and someone hasn't read it for 6 months, they're probably not that interested. So you can create segments, and what you might want to do is focus your efforts on the people who aren't reading your stuff, because the people who are and are opening every month, assuming you've got an unsubscribe button, well, I don't know that they're consenting, but they're the least likely people to say, why are you sending me this stuff, if every month they read it avidly, aren't they? So I'm not talking about their consents anymore, Valerie, but as a matter of common sense, if you send me a monthly email that I read end to end because it's so interesting, in what universe am I going to go to? How dare you send this stuff to me? So if we go to the people who don't read, let's have a look at them. Be aware of the fact that lots of people read emails, newsletters on MailChimp and stuff like that on things like iPad, and they often read them in preview. So you may be devastated thinking, my best friend never reads my email newsletter, but she reads it every month, but it still shows up as unread. So that's the group of people you might want to go. You signed up when you came to our pottery to get your ceramics done. You've been on the list ever since. I'm not quite sure if you're reading it on an iPad or opening it or not. Do you want to carry on? Click this link and you'll stay on the list, or use some sense, but don't go and, by the way, it's 5% off, and do you want shoes, and my best friend's a florist, and I don't know if you want a trip to Florida, and here's the price, because that's just taking the Michael,
Yeah.
Now, that has the advantage as well, that unless you've got a very tiny list, you are paying for MailChimp. So these at 250 get free, and everyone else got a similar system. MailChimp aren't the only platform. So after that, you pay in bands, don't you? 250 to 500 subscribers, right. 500 to 1,000, whatever. Yeah. So if you've got a list with 5,000 people on it, of whom 2,000 aren't opening, chances are you're in a much higher band for your email newsletters than you would be if you confined yourself to sending emails to people who actually wanted them. Yeah. So you could actually save yourself some money and reduce your subscription, right? Yeah. Which also will improve all sorts of things, because all the major email platforms, and I'm going to talk to you about why in a minute, because it's really scary, this, know what your list opening rates are. So if you've got a list with a 10% open rate or a 20% open rate or a 50%, no, they know that just as you do. But I don't know if you realise that the lowest open rate lists get the least priority in terms of sending them out. So when you hit send now or send at 4 o'clock on Friday, if you've got an 80% open and someone else has got a 20% open, yours is the one that goes out at 4. If there's any logjam in the system, it's the poor performers. So, I'll deal with how do I check where my software server is in a minute. That's a nightmare. Let's get to that. So you really don't want a duffly performing list. But we're just going to finish with email marketing. One of the really big differences that's happening from this wonderful day in May is this. At the moment, as the data controller, and weirdly that's you, the business, not the person whose data it's about, I'm the data subject, which really irritates me. I'm not anyone's subject. But anyway, as the data controller in the business, you're the one that gets fined when all this goes wrong. Yeah. And at the moment, I mean, no one wants to be fined, but in compared to GDPR, they're fairly modest. As of the 25th of May, not only you, the data controller, can be fined, but so can the data processor. Okay. That's the people who are processing your data. Now, in this context, it's your newsletter, you're the controller. My stuff is on it. I'm the data subject, but the data processor is MailChimp. Now, those fines are 4% of turnover, or can be, or 20 million euros. How long do you think MailChimp is going to keep you as a customer if they start seeing your open rates go through zero? Yeah. So your real problem isn't one of the 4 overworked people in the Information Commissioner's office going to come inspect you and fine you. But from a marketing point of view, is your platform provider going to go, do you know what? I think it's time you took your business somewhere else. Yeah. Now, if you read the MailChimp terms of business, and I highly commend that you do, you actually promise that you will only use lists with consent. You promise that you're not uploading third-party lists that aren't properly consented, blah, blah, blah. And when they can be fined, if your list opening numbers don't reflect what you could reasonably expect in your industry if that promise was valid, what do you think will happen? And I don't mean just MailChimp, I mean Infusionsoft, I mean ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, anybody. They are not going to risk that kind of money for you. Yeah. That's where your problem is, not whether some poor person from the Information Commission's office is going to wander up on the back of a VAT inspection. Because if you become a consistent mail performer, you may find your route to market is being blocked for you. And rightly so, because I'll get millions of emails I don't want. Yeah. How do you check where your software server is? Well, whoever's asking that, is one of the most difficult questions on the planet. In our groups, we run polls about where is it? What software are you using? And we take the next thing and we go find out. We've done that as part of a GDPR audit, and it's driving me through because about 80% of people are going, we will be GDPR compliant. And it's like, well, what does that mean? It's March. So checking where your software server is, if you're a subscriber, you want to look at the data privacy, data security, data location policies. You will find MailChimps in America, Infusionsoft's in America. Microsoft have got European stuff. They're about the only ones who reliably do. Dropbox is in America. 8 out of 10 times the answer is America. Okay. Right. And there are, in some sectors, very few alternatives. location wise. And again, we've got this mad idea that data mustn't be outside the EU, which is another one of these elephant ear problems. What GDPR and the current data regulations say is if you want data to go outside the EU, it has to be to a country where the standards are regarded as adequate. I don't want to start any diplomatic wars this morning. We're having enough trouble already. But you can imagine there are some when this is not the case, you know. And it's not a good idea to share data about your business into countries who've got no idea about data privacy and security anyway. But even if you think it is, when it comes to personal data about living individuals, you may not. The complication that comes out of this is that America is not on the list of countries that has adequate safeguards.
Yeah. Okay.
This is to do with the fact Americans have completely different ideas about rights and responsibilities for data. In Trump's America, he gets to see everything. And that rather bothers the European Commission, who think privacy is an issue. So the compromise between us all is something called the US Data Privacy Shield. So if you've got a supplier who's got the US Data Privacy Shield and it is in the States, obviously it doesn't really help if it's going to some other country completely, then that's regarded as the equivalent of a safe country. But you will hear people go, you mustn't send your data to America, you mustn't send your data to here. And the reality is you need to know, you need to check. But the other thing is you need to tell people. So it's not that you can't do it, but there are two things you need to do. One, if you're sending data off to America, people need to know. So you put it on your data privacy policy. It's on mine, I think. Lord knows I've redrafted it 15 times in the last 18 months, you know. And I think somewhere in it says an awful lot of our stuff that goes to America. You probably will end up with some stuff in America. We only use data privacy shield people, but we cannot stay in the UK in a global economy. It just doesn't work. So it's not true you can't. You must tell people and then you can. But what people are doing is you can't because you haven't told them. But it just reverse it. And that's what's causing a lot of anxiety. Now, there's a special category of data, which is currently known as sensitive data, and is changing its name for no obvious reason to special category data. But it's the same type of data. Gosh. Couldn't make this up.
So that's like gender and sexuality and that type
politics,
of data.
religion, etc., etc. And arguably ID data if you need to have passports because you're doing ID checks and stuff like that. You know? That you don't tell them it's going to America or out of the EU. That it has gone. You have to get specific individual consent before it goes.
Right.
So this gives rise to people saying you can't use this platform because it's in America. You can't use that platform because it's in America. And it's back to front. The answer is if it has the data privacy shield, you may, if you've informed people, or B, if you're on special category data, if you've asked consent beforehand for each occasion. But because most people haven't informed and haven't asked consent, they can't, but they could if they did it differently.
Yeah.
So that's a bit detailed, isn't it? But that's why you're hearing people say you can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's if you do it right, you can do it. But most people aren't doing it right. And it's not really difficult to do it right, but you just have to do it right, don't you? And somehow that's got completely entangled into, you know, my information must never leave Oxted or something. And it's because the people who are listening to this listen to a bit of it. As anyone has, like now, hands up anyone who's heard and understood every single word I've said. Because normally you get to a bit that you're interested in.
You've been going so quickly.
That's right. I mean, normally you get to a bit that interests you or a bit that bothers you, and you stick with that bit and you miss the next bit. And this is GDPR is a massive game of Chinese whispers from that point of view. So if I, you know, apart from the respect with the data, what I'd really like to get forward to people is it's not about what you can't do. It's about transparency and consent to enable you to do it. It's all gone backwards for some reason.
I can't even spell it now. Have we got any more questions from anybody? Because we've sort of run out of time. And as much as I could speak to Annabel all day, I know she's got so many other people that she wants to speak to.
So sorry, honestly. I never thought that something that unpopular could make me that popular. It's been a bit of a surprise. But, I think my big mission is not to panic to people. Find out what information you're collecting, figure out why. If you don't need it, stop it. That would be a good plan. If it's just in case something might, hold on stuff you need. Of course, you've got to hold on to invoices and financial records and stuff for your insurers. Don't let anybody panic you. And don't get in a complete fizz about it, or be systematic. It's something you need to check. It's something you need to do. If GDPR is keeping you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you need to get out more.
Good. I'm pleased you said that. I mean, one of the whole things about the Business Cheerleading Club is about helping people to run their business their way. And GDPR is very much about getting the systems in place to run your business your way. So it is a whole support system, but I think the scaremongering about it is sending people into such a tiz that it's turning people off running their own business. And if it's not right to run your own business now, that's absolutely fine, but that's your choice. Don't let GDPR scaremongering stop you from running your business your way, because it's there as a support. One question from me is Google, because lots of people use Google and Google Docs, and is Google part of the, what do you call it, has it got the US Privacy Shield agreement? Do you know that, or is it something?
Yes, it has, and but there's slightly more to data privacy and GDPR than privacy shields. But the one thing I would say about Google and a lot of other platforms is a lot of the home-based free non-subscription software is not being supported for GDPR security standards, even though it may or may not have the data privacy shield. And a lot of entrepreneurs were a bit tight, aren't we? We do like a freebie, and you need to be really careful about home-based platforms that are free. Even paid ones that are home, Windows for home, they are not carrying the right levels of data security and encryption for you to be using customer data on, because they're not designed for that. They think this is for you to email your mum, and we are a bit tight about these things. And yes, there is an on cost to properly securing your data, and it's getting on business versions of things, and it's getting on up-to-date versions of things. So I'm sorry if you're on Windows 97, can't be done. I know some people out there love it, but we are in the 21st century. Your software needs to be in the 21st century, and that's another area where, so Gmail domestic, I mean, I've got a personal Gmail account I use. I don't know why one has these things, and I don't really use it. And I wouldn't dream of sending business stuff on that, because that's not of the right standard. But, Gmail's got a suite for business. It's got great encryption in there. It's completely different. So I'm sorry, the end of the freebie is coming. Well, you can still use them, but you won't be compliant.
Yeah, exactly. And that's people's choices then, isn't it? It's about understanding, what you've got and what you need, and then
making a business decision,
that risk, or it's making that business decision. Am I going to pay the money for the upgrade, or am I not?
But also you need to watch what it does to insurance, because a lot of businesses do insure for data loss, and you've sometimes got it in your policy even if you don't know. But I think you'll find that your cover is conditional upon having adequate levels of software and a home-based version of Windows 97 and a free Gmail account to run a local shop through is not adequate. And I really don't know anyone in the business world who knows about IT who thinks that is, but there are an awful lot of people going, well, it's just Gmail, isn't it? But it's not just Gmail. It's like you're asking me, is a Mini and a Lamborghini the same thing? Well, you can drive them all on the road, but you wouldn't use them for the same purpose, would you? And we love a simple answer, don't we?
We do.
Yeah, we do. So, Gmail can be a Mini down at that freebie level, or what about a Lamborghini, but certainly a bit of a chieftain tank at its top end. And then if you got all this security, turn it on, because a lot of these platforms have it, but you have to click the button. Turn on encryption, turn on password, double authentication, all these things, because having a platform that could be secure is absolutely useless if you don't use it securely. And don't share your passwords. Give us all a break.
Okay.
There we are.
I know some people use an encryption or a software or a password site that actually they put their passwords into this secure site. Do you recommend something like that, or do you?
Yes, I do, because I can't remember my password. We're about 400. I couldn't possibly you're not going to write them down. It's not secure. But even within them, I'm a LastPass bunny, but people use OnePass. There's lots of others, I do occasionally share passwords for software that doesn't contain personal information, because not all, if I need someone to do me something in Canva and I'm rubbish, it all misses, I'll go on it, log into my site, because then at least I can download it and use it without a plover. But I do not share passwords for anyone who's got access to personal data, even if they're under contract to me. We have a wholly outsourced business model now, so they would be outsourced, because part of GDPR is being able to trace who did what with the data. And if your password sharing, it's impossible. And also, if you fall out with someone, then you've got to change all your own passwords. Whereas if they've got a separate logon, you just turn them off. And that word data controller means it's your job to control it. So that doesn't mean you go to the VA and go, you have the master passwords, because I can't be bothered to set it all up. You are the master or the mistress, you control. And everybody else is a sub-rent, if you like, when you're using them, and you turn them off when you're done. And we need to know around that. And obviously, password lockers are useful to stop you forgetting your own passwords. Yeah. But they're not there for you to share passwords to sensitive data with people. You need one each.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. There are so many other things sort of, on my list that we, if they come up in the group, I'll ask you the question directly, Annabel, and get back to people. So, because I think
we'll do our best.
In terms of people getting in contact with you and maybe joining one of your groups, if that's the way for them to go and get more information, it's coffeeclatch.co.uk, is that right?
Yep. And our GDPR page is /GDPR. See, we try and keep it reasonably friendly. And not quite all the groups are on that page yet, because they're forming faster than I can actually get them on the page. I have a VA whose sole reason of existence is to put things on pages, but she's running 7 days behind me. We have digital VIPs up there, which is for people who market their business online. And these are what we call early adopter groups. So as soon as we get 20, the group goes live. We've got one for health therapists, by which I mean massage, osteopathy, Pilates, not NHS, Yeah. It's supposed to be on there, and I can't find a picture to make the product go live. I'm having an idiocy moment. So they are happening, but there's also a mailing list there. We let people know on our mailing list what the new groups are. And we do give a sort of monthly, this is the big GDPR issue of the month on that, as well as these are the groups. And I'm probably the only person in the world who gets written complaints that we don't send enough emails. But actually, I'm not big on burying people in emails. I think life is very short.
You're giving them what they need, aren't you? You're giving them the overview, and it's down to them to do the work. Your planner, is excellent. It's not. It's down to people to do that high level stuff, and then if they need extra help, to ask the questions. So
and anyone who hits that page should get a pop-up with the mailing list on it, and that planner does go out automatically to anyone who joins that list, as far as I know. And I say that because these days the automations are so peculiar, it's meant to go, but no one would ever tell me if they hadn't got it. So I'm hoping they do. The technology's taken it over, haven't they? But you can tell me, sign up and tell me, did you get your GDPR planner or not? But it's not meant to be a nightmare, is there? And
no.
Business is about processes, isn't it? I mean, most of us have got a process for dealing with cash or money in the business. I don't know many people who run a serious business who go, I don't know, we might bank it, we might not. We might do a bank rec, we might not. We might send an invoice, we might not. But that's kind of startup mode. That's exciting, but it's way too exciting when you've got an established business. You want something a bit more routine. You need something like that with data. don't you? And by the way, data is as good as money in the bank. You know that. That is exactly why people want to steal it from you, because they know that information is as valuable as cash. So we should treat it that way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Annabel. That has been absolutely brilliant and fabulous, and just brings it down to like the basics of it. It's down to you as a business owner it's your responsibility, but it's your responsibility to manage your whole business, and the information gathering and storing and using is just part of that process. So whether it's employees, whether it's VAs, whether it's customers, that's all part of your business anyway. And all GDPR is doing is just making you look at it. It's just making you review what you've got, the process you've got in place, and making sure they're secure so that your employees that all their data is secure, or your customers, you're not sharing your customer data. And that's exactly what GDPR is doing. So I love that. GDPR is a process for using and storing information. That's it. Simple.
So it's all about process, isn't it, at the end of the day? And the thing is, everyone wants to outsource the work, don't they? But as a business owner, you can outsource as much work as you like, but you can never outsource the responsibility.
Yes.
You remain the boss, whether you're doing this with your own hands and filling in the checklist, or whether you're saying to someone, I don't know, I'm really busy, you fill it in. But if they fill it in wrongly, it's still your responsibility. That is what being a boss is. That's why some people love it and why some people can't stand it.
Yes. So within the Business Cheerleading Club, I know we're going to have lots of conversations about this. So we'll have a thread that we help people through any of these questions that they have, and obviously I'll make sure that the link to Coffee Clutch and the free checklist and all the groups that you have to support people is listed below as well. So thank you so much, Annabel. That's been absolutely brilliant.
I really enjoyed our chat.
See you soon.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.